let's just sew whatever.
Okay, as much as I am addicted to the Apothecary, I just realized I have never done a cutting video. Alright, we're good. So, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to cut out the Apothecary. I am doing the large size. I've got templates for both sizes. They are sold from that template shop. There may be other places that carry them, but that is where I have purchased. I'm going to be using this mid-weight luxe vinyl that I carry on my website. This print is going to be available at So Magical Expo, Tennessee. It was commissioned by Kathy of K-Dill for her class kits, and then I'm just going to sell some of it as well. So this bag has a lot of pieces. I'm going to be honest with you. So to make it a little bit easier, what we're going to do is we're going to separate the pieces. I'm also using a shale clay vinyl that I sell on my website. This one is domestic and industrial friendly, but if you're going to be using it in a domestic machine, just be careful of the layers and where you're using it. Top stitching might be difficult. So I've got my pocket panel. This piece is a lot of different pieces. So we've got from this dash lined pocket panel A, which means one exterior, two lining. Pocket panel lining B is here. So we're gonna need two lining pieces. And then up here at the top is one exterior and two lining. So I know I'm gonna need a lot of my exterior cut out of this, so I'm gonna set this in my exterior pile. What I love is that they cut the additional cut list so you can use a dry erase marker to mark off as you go. This is my bottom panel. I'm going to use my contrast fabric for that. And then I've got my lining. This one is my top panel. I need 4 exterior contrast, so we're going to set that in the contrast. Large pocket panel B, this is my exterior. Set that there. Pocket panel C is the top here. So I kind of like to have some fun with this. If you've looked at the pattern, you'll see that this is the top, there's a zipper, there's this piece, and then there's another zipper. So I like for B to be my contrast and pocket panel C to be my exterior fabric. And then there's the side panels here. I'm gonna cut those out of my contrast. And then my bottom panel stabilizer. This is Decaville Heavy or Peltex, or like 2 layers of Decaville Light, something like that. And then this one is my lining panel. And then I also have cut on here what I cut out to make a cargo slip pocket, which is 20 inches by 6.5 inches. And that is going to be just one folded over edge of waterproof canvas. Now for this pattern, she has it interfaced to the simplest of fabrics, so just like quilting cottons. So that's when you would want to really follow the directions of interfacing it. The Decaville Light on your lining is going to give it a lot of stability and structure while making your exterior sewable with a domestic, since if you were to add like Decaville Light and woven to all of those pieces, it would get really bulky really quick. For the one I am cutting out, I'm not following the interfacing instructions as closely because I'm using vinyl's waterproof canvas and they're structured enough. So I'm going to set that stabilizer piece to the side as well as my additional cut list, and I'm just going to get started on my exterior. So if you get very overwhelmed with cutting and interfacing, I think it'll help you if you take these little bite-sized pieces before you just jump right in. I am gonna cut my crossbody strap out of this vinyl. It's such a lovely weight vinyl that I think it'll be really nice. Because this is the large size, I'm gonna cut out a 1 inch wide crossbody strap. If I were doing the small, I might do like a 3/4 inch. So I'm gonna need this to be 4 inches wide. So I'm just lining up the 4-inch mark on my ruler with the edge of the vinyl. And cutting that. Take my scissors. And then while I'm here, I can measure out my center line and lay some double-sided tape over that. Following this practice, as you're cutting and interfacing, of course, if you have the space, is really a time saver when you get to the sewing machine. You've already got your centers marked, you've got your tape added, and you can just speed through sewing. The tape that I'm using is from Weft and Warp Co. I also sell it on my website, but this is a rippable tape. The Whack tape is not as easy to tear, you need to cut it, and I really enjoy that I can just rip. It's so weird, but it's such a time saver to not have to reach for a pair of scissors. So I always like to have a bin that I put my projects in. So I've got a little photo holder where I put my hardware and little pieces, and then the larger opens spot of the bin is for everything else. All right. I'm also going to turn on my heat press so that when I get done cutting out the bottom of my bag, it's ready to add the stabilizer. I'm gonna grab a smaller ruler for the next steps of the bag. Okay, so this vinyl does not really have a set direction, which is good because I'll be able to kind of crisscross the angles of this exterior panel. So for the back pocket panel, I need to cut one exterior out of this. And this becomes a slip pocket. So there's a smaller piece, I think it's C. Is it C? No. It's B. Nope, it's C. Yeah, it's C, sorry. So piece C goes on top of this on the back panel and creates a slip pocket. So if you're wanting this to be kind of a fussy cut print, keep that in mind. And then I did not spray these templates, so they aren't a non-slip, but you absolutely can, or you could add some grip to it with the little rubber pieces. Okay, one exterior. This is the large back pocket panel, so we can go ahead and write large back pocket panel and set this aside. I'm going to need lining that matches this, so what I like to do is just set this in a new pile that needs lining. Alright, moving right along, I'm going to need 2 lining of pocket panel B, which means I don't need to cut out any exterior. But for pocket panel A, which is dash lined 1, I'm going to need 1 exterior. So if you have the pattern piece, you can just fold on that dashed line, but since I don't have the paper pattern piece, well, I do, but I'm using the templates. I'm just going to line up my free edge on that dashed line and cut that out right there. Okay, so then I know this is pocket panel A, and I only need 1 of those. And then I will need 2 lining, so I'm going to set that in that pile. And that's really it of the exterior that I need out of this piece. So we can just set this all together, and we'll know later that we still need some of that. Alright, So pocket panel C is the top, and this is the one that I like to make the exterior fabric. Pocket panel B, I like to be the contrast. And I need 2 exterior of this piece. So I'm going to cut this out right here. And then I would definitely label this C, because when you get to sewing it, it can get confusing. And then again, if your fabric is not directional, you can save a lot of waste by just pivoting the direction. Pocket panel C. Okay, so this is the back pocket panel, large back pocket panel, and then this piece here gets attached to waterproof canvas and becomes the top. So this is one big slip pocket. So what you can do to kind of help you remember that is even lay these together and clip in place. And then this becomes a slip pocket, or the zippered pockets in the front. So again, kind of keeping those together. So I just needed those 2 pieces of pocket panel C, so I'm going to go ahead and just start putting my template pieces away. Just slide that right in there, and I know I've got it. This is the large top panel, and I know I put this in my contrast pile, but I think I want my lining to have this print, and it'll just help make it a little bit thinner when I'm top stitching. So I'm going to cut one of those out. Oh, might help if I cut the bottom half. And this has the most subtle trapezoidal shape, so just be really careful. And if you need to, mark an arrow at the top. If you want, you can keep this scrap to tie through a zipper pull or make a tassel. I'm just going to throw it away. Okay, let's see. Sweet. Well, not quite. So I'll move on, but just remember you can flip to save fabric. If your fabric is not directional. Perfect. So I think that's pretty much it that I need out of this fabric. But I think it might be fun to make a zipper pocket overlay out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and see what size my zipper pocket needs to be. Interior zipper pocket is 12 by 8. So that's going to be like a 10-inch zipper pocket. So we're actually going to cut our overlay to 12 by 2. And then I'm going to measure 0.75 from all edges. So when I use my rotary cutter to do that, I'm just going as close as I think I can to the line. And then I use my scissors and just carefully connect it to the side and cut across. And then if you have an overlay template with any fancy corners or rounded edges, you could absolutely do that, but this will be my overlay for the pocket. So then I think that's it that I need for this exterior fabric. Now I'm going to think about my handles. So let's see, where's my additional cut? Expo marker, there you are. So I cut my crossbody strap. I don't need the main zipper tab. I will need zipper panels. So I'll go ahead and cut that. That's the inside zipper panel. So that one's going to be 4, 12 and a half. So I'm going to cut it as all one piece, and then I'll trim it down. And then another time-saving trick is going to be to measure 1 inch from either end and tape it. And this is just going to help us create our zipper panel when we get to the sewing machine. Cutting and interfacing can definitely be a slow process, but if you've made the bag before, it definitely goes faster because you understand how the pattern pieces come together, you know how it's made. So if you get frustrated that it's taking you longer than you'd like, just understand that sometimes it's like that the first time you make a bag. Alright, so now I'm thinking about my handles, and if I want them to be maybe double-sided, or if I want them to be a solid color. So these are going to be 4-inch handles, or 1-inch handles I should say, which means if I want double-sided, I would cut 2 inches wide and 2 inches wide to fold. But if I want this to be like an accent, I would want to do 1 3/4. So let's see how wide this is here. And it is 1 3/4. So I say let's do it so that we're not wasting a ton of this fabric. Oh, it's going to be very pretty. So 1 3/4 by the length of your handle. And if you don't have enough fabric or you're trying to conserve fabric, this is a really good way to do it. what we want to do is just add some double-sided tape to the center. And we're going to fold the long raw edges into the center. You want them to just butt up right next to each other. So this piece is going to get laid over top of one of the contrasting pieces that's cut to 2 inches. So this is 1 3/4, the other one's 2 inches. So when we fold them in and in, you're going to see some of the black on the underside of this strap. So when we stitch them together, it's going to create this really fun accented handle. So we've got one of those. We're going to go ahead and cut out another. You can use a different part of the vinyl. Maybe over here. And I could be just taping this at my machine, but I'm here, I may as well. And any uneven edge, just trim. That's going to be so pretty. Okay, I really think that's officially it for the exterior fabric. The handle connectors, crossbody connectors. I'm gonna do the crossbody connectors. So this is going to be 2 by 3, so I'm gonna cut this to 2 by 6. And just keep it together until I get to my machine. I add my connectors into the side seam instead of on the side, so that's a little bit different than the pattern. And again, tape them, mark them while you're at your cutting table. And you're just gonna save yourself some sewing time. Especially if you have a smaller sewing space and it's not really like easily accessible to have all those things at your sewing machine. All right, moving on to our contrast fabric. So let's see what we need. We know we need our handles. So I'll go ahead and cut that now. Woo, look at that. So if you were to cut your crossbody strap out of your exterior fabric, you've got just enough to do your handles out of that width. All right, so for this accent, I'm doing 2 inches by 14. And I'll show you what the final strap will look like. And there is a strap add-on pack that was created by Erica at Lavender and Twine that has a bunch of different variations. So definitely check that out if you're wondering what other things you can do to have some fun with straps. And she sews all of her bags on a domestic machine. So if you have a domestic, it's doable. Normally I would use a 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape so that I'm not sewing through so much tape. But we've got what we've got. Okay, and then when I lay this over top, I'm going to see just the faintest little bit of the black contrast on the other side. And if you wanted to see even less or even more of the black, you could cut this to 1.5 instead of 1.35. So you can see when we add that to our bag, we're just going to see the softest amount of the black, and it's a fun little accent look. Just make sure that the width of your strap is no more than 1 inch, since that's the width of our connectors. And we're going to be using that hardware. So if your strap is wider than the hardware, it's going to sit kind of bunched up and not look the best. It's not going to be great. Yeah, come on. And again, if things aren't lined up perfectly, you can trim it before you get to your machine. And you can use a strap end hardware to cover up that raw end, or edge coat, or just leave it as it is. Okay. Alright, moving along. Cut our bottom panel. Cut that really carefully. I know those curves are hard, and I probably need to change my blade. Okay, line that up. And now before I add my interfacing, I'm going to mark my centers. I'm going to do that by just notching that a little bit. So there's that center, and then we want to mark it the other way so that we find all 4 quadrants. And that'll just make this that much easier to put together. In the end. Okay. So now I know I need to cut the large bottom panel out of my lining, so I'm going to add that to my lining pile. Same with these pieces. That's my lining pile. Alright. Check our additional cut list. We've got crossbody connectors finished, handles finished. So now we need our handle connectors. The pattern states to cut those to 2 by 2, but I like to add a little wiggle room for myself, so I'm going to cut those to 2 by 3. And I know that 3 times 4 is 12. So I need to cut this to 2 by 12 so that I have all of my connectors in one piece. So I'll go ahead and cut this, tape it, and lay it in my pile. And then when I get to my machine, I'm going to top stitch it and then trim them to the size I need. So that's a little space time saving trick. And that is it for my additional cut list until I get to my lining. So just so I remember, I'm going to cross that off and put it in my lining pile. All right. And now I just have these pieces here left to cut out of my exterior. And then we move on to the lining. So I only need one of these. This is pocket panel B. So if you need to mark that, definitely do. Pocket panel B. I'm going to lay this in that stack. So I just needed one exterior and one fusible woven interfacing if I'm using cotton, which I'm not. So I can go ahead and put this away. And now we're on to the side panels. I need to cut 4 total, 2 in one direction, 2 flipped the other way. So just keep that in mind. And then I need 2 of my top panel for the exterior. Oh my God, Ben, what do you want? Okay. If you are worried about not having enough fabric, I definitely recommend laying this out to trace, or even laying your pieces down on your fabric first and seeing what would be the best way to lay it out. Okay. Ooh, that is not straight. Not straight at all. Alright, so that was the 2 pieces I needed out of this. So I can just put that back in the bag. And now I know I have plenty of fabric, so I'm not going to be super picky about how I cut this, but these angles fit really nicely inside of each other. So I'm going to cut one this way. The bottom angle is easier to cut by hand. So there's one. And now keep in mind that it's going to be really important what direction you turn this. So if you're going to turn this, then you're cutting the same piece this way. So what I like to do is turn it, and then I will flip it over so that it's a mirror image. Because right now it might seem like you're cutting the other side's piece, but you're not. You're cutting the same side. So I'm going to cut out that little notch. And then cut out. So you'll see when I lay these on top of each other, they're the same piece. So we want pieces that are in the opposite direction. So that's kind of why it's nice with the templates. You'll see if I'm cutting it with the text facing the right way, 2 of those, and then flip it over so that I can't really read it. And then cut out the next one. So I have flipped it and turned it to save my fabric here. So trace out the part that is not easy to cut with a rotary cutter. Cut out the spots I can, and then cut this out with my scissors. And now you'll see when I try to lay this on this stack, it's not the same. It's the same size, but it's a different direction. And then again, when I turn this, I want to turn it, not flip it. So I can't read, well, I can read it, but it's backwards. And then we'll cut this one out. And then I know I have 2 in one direction and 2 in another direction. And that's all 4 pieces that I need. On this large size, a little bit of interfacing can't hurt on these side panels. But don't use anything too thick. So this one says a fusible woven interfacing. I know that's meant for cotton fabrics, but if you're wanting a really sturdy bag, sturdy side panels, it couldn't hurt to use like a little bit of Decaville light out of your side seams. But I kind of like that little bit of slouch that this gives. So that is it for my exterior. Those are my large side panels. I can put that away. I can roll up this excess because I've got my handles, my strap connectors, all that good stuff cut out. Can go in my scrap bag. What'd you just call me? All right, and now I'm ready to cut out of Decaville Heavy my bottom panel. Just kind of figure out what's best for you. Now, I would say I recommend Decaville Heavy over Peltex. It fuses beautifully. It just feels better. There's nothing wrong with Peltex. It works. But, man oh man, Decaville Heavy is a thing of beauty. Alright, so this is my bottom piece. My heat press is ready to go. So I can interface this, and this is like truly the only interfacing I'm really going to use on this bag. You could add a little bit to your lining if you wanted, or you could add Decaville light to your lining. But I think this stuff's pretty good. See, it gives it a good amount of structure. If you wanted even more, you could add a layer of Decaville light, as I mentioned. So that's my bottom panel. And that is the entire exterior of the bag. And now we're going to move on to lining. Okay, I'm going to use this waterproof canvas from FWD Fabrics on the lining of this bag. Oh, keep my dress down. Okay. Let's see, we need our bottom panel. A nice little chunk right here to cut that out of. And then just like I marked the centers on the exterior lining, I'm going to do that to the exterior lining. To the exterior bottom panel, I'm going to do that to the lining. And I'm just making little tiny notches. Repeating that hot dog and hamburger style. Woo. And then something that can help you when you get to your sewing machine is clipping the same pieces together. Like, these are my bottoms. Just one less thing to kind of remember when you get to your sewing machine, because I know it can be days or weeks until you're actually able to sew this. So just doing that little kindness for yourself. So I've got my exterior and my lining. I'm done with the bottom panel, so I'm gonna put that away. Let's see, what else do we need? We need our zipper pocket lining pieces. So I know I've got my overlay here, so I need 12 by 8. Nope, still not. So I'm going to grab one of my bigger rulers and cut that out. Oh, that's okay. One can be shorter with the style of pocket I'm doing. No big deal. Okay, here's my pocket pieces. And again, I'm gonna just clip all of these together. And then I know, when I get to it, that's what it is. So I think I'm gonna be sewing this up this weekend at the Sew Whatever Weekend Apothecary Anonymous meetup. Unofficially what we're calling it. Okay, so that was it for my additional cut list. So now I can go ahead and wipe that off and put that away. All right, and now comes the fun part of cutting out. Well, we'll save this for last. I know I need 2 of these. And this is one of the things I absolutely love about having the templates for this, is like, I don't have to cut this on the fold. I can just very quickly cut all the way around this. And I completely understand that templates are expensive. So if it's not something you can afford, that's okay. I have been making bags for 7 years and have made it my business. So I can, like, not necessarily I can't afford them, but I can expense them in a way that makes sense for my business. I think I want to, while I'm here, tape this down. Oh wait, I want smaller tape, don't I? Do I? Yeah, I'm gonna want smaller tape. Can I rip it? Ugh. Yeah, that's not a good idea. Alright, I'll wait. Or I just need to go get some tape that matches. Because what I've seen people do is they actually cut out this zipper box like now. I'm wondering if I should. I feel like I can. It's going to be super weird to sew it. I'm not going to do it. I should. I should try something new, but I'm too scared. So I won't. So I'm going to clip all of those pieces together. I've got one more lining to cut out. And make sure you watch out for where your rotary cutter has gone over. You don't want that to be inside your bag. Case in point, that piece right there, that little snip. I think that's within my seam allowance though, so we should be okay. Okay, I've snipped all my centers. Ooh. Zipper panel lining. Almost forgot it. And then I still want that cargo slip pocket, so it's 20 inches by 6.5. So I still need this. 20 by 6.5. I'm going to cut 20 by 7 because I'm going to be folding over those edges. I can always cut it smaller if I need to. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. This looks like it could be an, oh, good thing there's no light up there. Looks like it could be a good spot for my zipper panel pieces. Where did you go? Here they are. These are 12.5 by 2. And when I'm using waterproof canvas for my zipper panel pieces, I like to cut them a little bit wider to account for like bulk that happens when you fold it over. Ooh, that was satisfying. Okay. So again, saving time, I'm gonna mark out the 1 inch fold line and tape it. And you want to tape it inside the 1 inch line. Take those like pieces together. Okay, officially we're on the lining pieces. It's only taken us 50 years. Alright, microphone's good. Alright, so we need 2 lining pieces that are the full back panel. So there is one. And there's 2. Large back pocket panel. And now, again, because I know how these get clipped together, I can do it while I'm at my cutting table. So this piece here gets sewn across the top, and then we'll flip it open, top stitch, and that becomes our slip pocket. And then this piece here gets sewed on like that, and then we'll flip it up. And then these pieces get laid over top of each other. So this is my back slip pocket. So I can lay that all together. Okay. So now if you had the paper pattern piece, you would just go ahead and fold down at that dashed line. So now we're on pocket lining panel B. We need 2 of those pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up to that dotted line and cut from there. And then to finish off that piece, because you can see I did not cut there, is I'm going to flip it over and line up to the dotted line and then finish cutting. And there's 1. Now I need 2 of these. So if you want, you could even just use this pattern, or not this pattern, but this actual lining piece to cut out the next one. Because you don't see this piece, it's literally just your lining. So if it's not even, nobody's gonna know. So there's 1. Alright, and then the next one is at the very bottom dash line. So if you have a paper piece, you're going to fold that all the way down to the dash line. Or, if you want, you can just use this piece. And I know I need to cut 2 of those lining pieces. That becomes the lining of that pocket. So we can just lay this in place and rough cut around it, because like I said, it's going to become the lining. Nobody's going to see it. We can trim it to the size we need as we're sewing. Call it a day. So there's 1. And using waterproof canvas for all these pockets gets a little bit bulky. So if you want to use waterproof or water resistant canvas or cotton woven, it does feel a little bit lighter for the lining. There we go. So that's it. Officially. That is cutting out the Apothecary bag from Sincerely Jen Patterns. I hope this helped you cutting out your bag. I know it's a lot of pieces, but this bag is so much fun to make. It's such a satisfying finished bag that looks super fancy. And I do have a video sewing it if you would like to watch that. We add a little bit of free motion quilting. Super fun. If you are not already subscribed, I would love it if you would do so, and I will see you next time. Bye.